Daphne, I'm a bit emotional. That did it, but also you too. Thank you from this hill. Thanks, Lynn. But this is also emotional for me. So just to kick off, I wanted to say that when I was 11, a photograph of you went up at 82 Hanbury Street. One side of the mantelpiece, Daphne Robson. At the other side was Doreen Atkinson, the Byre River. I was 11 when you went to Kalimpong. I just remember that's how we prayed. Daphne Robson, who was a missionary in the Dr. Graham's homes at Kalimpong, India. I didn't know much else except that you were with children, but Lynn's going to pick that up in the second half. But I'm interested, we've had lots of conversations about this over many years and with Jeffrey. Tell me about the first time that you remember that God moved in your life. I believe you were 8.
I was sent to Sunday school at Lambton Baptist Church. And one morning they gave to each of us a card with a text on it. And I took it home and I learnt it. And I never forgot that. But I didn't quite understand what it meant. Sadly, I was a very shy child. I was upset when someone made fun of me. And I said I wouldn't go back again. And my mother said, all right, we won't force you. But I never forgot that verse. And I often took my mother's Bible and would try to find it. And it stayed with me. When I was 17, my sister, Margaret, started going to Mayfield Baptist Church. And she was having a good time. And I thought to myself, must be something happening down there. I think I might go down and see. And so I came down to Valencia Street. I was in the first Mayfield Baptist Church. That's where I began. And that's where I've been ever since. Soon after, we moved up to Maitland Road. And when there was a big program on in town, I went. And I was moved to go out when they made an appeal. And the lady who counselled me on the verse that I had read when I was 8. And it was John 3:16. For God so loved the world. And she explained that to me. And that night, I gave my heart to Jesus. And I have known him ever since. And he is my Saviour, my Lord, and I love him dearly. And it's been my desire to do something for him. We often had visitors at Mayfield, missionaries who came and gave their testimony, told us what they'd been doing. And one night, a lady came from Dr. Graham's homes in India. And I knew that God was saying to me, you could do that for me. I spoke to her afterwards and she said, oh, you're very young. I was only 18 at the time. She said, you need some training. You could go to Bible study or Bible college, rather, or you could get some training with children. Well, neither of that appealed to me very much, but I asked Joy Redford, what should I do? And she said, why don't you apply to Bible study? We'll pray about it. And if God wants you to go there, you will be accepted. And so we did. And goodness me, I was accepted. That took me by surprise. I wasn't a particularly bright soul, you know. And I'd worked in an office for 6 years after I left school, but still, this was a big ask. And I have to tell you that I really didn't learn a great lot about spiritual things in Bible college, but I needed to learn to live with other people. I needed to, get alongside people from different societies or whatever. And I did learn. Do you know, the thing that I was really tickled about was that we had to learn Bible
Bookkeeping.
But I'd learnt that in school. So when the other students who were very bright had trouble, I didn't. And that was my one good thing.
Daphne, how long was your training
Before I went to India?
Yes. How many?
4 years.
4 years. Mm-hmm. What did that involve?
Well, Bible college was 2 years.
Yes.
Then I worked in children's homes in Sydney in 2 different places. I also went to Melbourne and minded children for missionaries who were doing a course with Wycliffe Bible translators. And so that was another 2 years. And so when I was 21, I was ready to go.
Can I just interrupt you? And it's just brief, but God was already training you to be fairly settled and calm in the midst of danger. Like your trip to Wycliffe, the bus rolled.
Yes,
I mean, that's a...
Yes, we're on the way from Sydney to Melbourne on a Greyhound bus. It was pouring rain just out of Moss Vale, and the bus skidded and started to roll down the hill. We rolled down the hill, and already there was another accident. A car had gone on. They were far down the hill, and they were in a lot of danger. But we were stopped by a huge tree. We were on our side. We were all over this way. No bus, no seatbelts in those days. And we had to stay in the bus on the side for a couple of hours till they got another bus to come and rescue us and take us to Melbourne.
I like that some of this is so incidental to you. And if you ever want to sit with Daphne one afternoon, there are stories that would curl your hair, and she won't have time to tell you about Kalimpong, and there won't be time to do that with Lynn either. But I used to sit there and go, that's why we had your photo on. It's why people were praying, because, there's many of those. Can I just ask you another question? So the 4 years is up, you're ready to go. Now, family at home were thrilled that you were going? Be honest.
My dad wasn't. My dad was very upset. But he took me to Bible college, dropped me off there. He said, don't talk to me about it. But he took me. Then he came to Sydney with some of the folk from Mayfield Baptist. We went down and I got on the ship and we went sailing out.
Can I ask you about the ship? Did you know much about where you were going to?
Not at all.
Did you have any arrangements for being met?
No.
Did you know once you got to where you were going, was that Bombay or Mumbai?
Yes.
How long did that journey take?
3 weeks.
Yeah. So did you know whether anyone was going to meet you? Or
no.
Tell us a bit about that, because she's young. I find that fascinating.
No, it didn't bother me. Well, some other missionaries were on the ship and they said, how are you getting to Kalimpong? I said, well, I really don't know. And but God was looking after me, because when we came to Melbourne, a girl got on the ship. And it was God's deliverer, because she had been to Nepal. She had been all the way, the journey I was about to take, she had been that way. She knew how to get there, what to do. She knew what we could eat on the train and what we could drink on the train, because you can't drink the water. And so God looked after me. He just sent that dear girl. It was strange. It took us 2.5 days to go from that side of India to Calcutta on the other side of India on the train. Then I had to stay in Calcutta overnight. Oh, I must tell you, when I got to Bombay, there was a little man there with tickets for me to get on the train. Oh, they knew where I was going, but I didn't. Anyway.
Something people don't know about you is you love to laugh. Well, we laugh a lot together. I'm not sure what we're laughing about, but you have a great capacity for that, to find humour, and I love that side of you. That's mine. Can I just ask you a question? So how did you get up there? Because you're about to go 5,000 feet, almost up to where the Dr. Graham's homes are. This last part of the journey is very interesting. So tell me about that. So you get to Bombay.
Yes, but then we went to Calcutta.
Then you go to Calcutta.
Then the little man...
Tell us about the airstrip.
Oh, yes.
There wasn't one. That didn't bother her either.
Well, we went... He came the next morning from where I was staying, and he took me to the airport. And we drove along in the taxi, and we passed a lot of planes. And as we travelled along, the planes got smaller, until we came to the end, to the smallest plane on the airfield, and that was what I was going in. So
it was a cargo plane as well.
It was a cargo plane.
Yeah.
And there were not a lot of people on the plane, and when there were not many people, they took the seats out and they put cargo in. So that was I'd never been in a plane before. That was a bit of a shock.
Anyway, it did land, didn't it? Let's land this.
Oh, yes, it landed. It landed in a paddock. Not on an airfield, but in a paddock. Well, that was a bit of a shock.
And now, from the paddock, you have to get up the hill. There's a landslide in here too, isn't there?
Oh, yes.
So
the principal of Dr. Graham's homes was there to meet me, and another lady from Australia, she was a nurse in the hospital, come down. And they said, this is not our Jeep that we're going in now. We left our Jeep on the other side of a landslide, and we had to walk across and then get another Jeep. So we'll go in this Jeep to the landslide, then we'll walk across the landslide. I thought, oh, and then we'll be all right. Do you know, when you're driving along, there's a river there, and you're driving around, and you see a sign that says, beware of falling boulders. I thought, oh dear, I don't think I'd like that much. So anyway, we travelled on, and finally we came to a place where the river was crossed by a huge bridge that had been built by the British. But you had to have a special permit to cross the bridge. Then you climbed the mountain to the homes. So we did that, and we began to climb the hills. They were called foothills. They were mountains to me. And up we went. And we came finally to Kalimpong.
We're going to leave it there because we now now we're in Kalimpong. We're with Lynn.
Oh, good-o, I've arrived.
Okay, we're up to part 2. And I'm sorry that we had to stop Daphne. She was obviously on a roll. So I hope that the roll continues. It hasn't been interrupted too much. So you've arrived at the homes in a town called Kalimpong. What did you first think of as you arrived at the school or the homes?
I'm here. I was just so glad to be there. I really was. And I was first put into a cottage. I must tell you about Dr. Graham's homes. Dr. Graham's homes was started in the year 1900 by Dr. Graham, who was a Church of Christ minister from Scotland. He saw a tremendous need amongst the poor, amongst Anglo-Indians, amongst children from tea garden managers who came to the country to earn big money in the tea gardens. They had lots of girls there who picked the tea leaves, and the men took advantage. And there were lots and lots of children amongst the tea planters, but they went home and they left their children and their wives or the women that they had used behind. And Dr. Graham saw a great need, and so he began to collect them and to build Dr. Graham's homes. But a lot of them came from Calcutta also, because there were a lot of them poor people in Calcutta.
Were there other schools in Kalimpong?
There was a blind school run by the Salvation Army. There was a hospital run by Church of Scotland. There was another school, but they kept very much to themselves. But there were also some very lovely nuns who we became friends with because they were there to serve, and they were very special too. Mm.
And what was your main role when you arrived?
I was an assistant to the house mother of one of the cottages. The children lived in cottages. There were 6 boys cottages and 7 girls cottages, 2 senior boys cottages, a nursery, and there was Wales Lodge, which was mine eventually. Yeah.
So what can you tell me about the community that you moved into there in Kalimpong, Dr. Graham's homes?
It was a lovely place to be. We were sitting on the side of the mountain. We were looking across at the Himalayas. We could see Kanchenjunga, which is the second highest mountain. And only once did I ever see Mount Everest, when I was in Darjeeling, which was nearby.
It's really hard to take, isn't it?
Yeah. But it was a lovely place. It was a beautiful place. And we lived, the girls on this hill, the school in the middle, the boys on that side, and the nursery was just down below. If you went anywhere, you either went up or you went down, because it was just like that all over. We were up and down. And to go to the hospital, it was the highest building which was strange, because if you weren't sick before, when you climb... But that's true. And You were never allowed to keep a child who was sick in your cottage. They must go to the hospital. And they had beautiful nurses and a matron there. And also they had a beautiful chapel, a chapel that could seat 560 children and staff. And that's how many children we had, 560 children, boys and girls, to love and care for.
It's lovely. Can you tell us some memories that you might have had of some of the children?
Well, I loved them all, but they were good kids. They were. I'll tell you about a little boy that I was in the girls' cottage for a year. Then I went to Wales Lodge, which was for boys aged 5 and 6. They said, big girls will look after little girls, but big boys don't usually look after little boys. So they had a special cottage for the 5 and 6-year-olds until they got used to school and were ready to go into the cottage with the bigger boys. That was to be my cottage. And I had a little boy once. He was brought there and left there from Darjeeling. His parents were Hindus, and they had had several children, and they all died. So they bought him, and they said, we can't look after him, so we're giving him to you. So they brought him to the home, and there he came, and they never came to visit him. They lived not very far away, but they said, he's safe with you, but he's not safe with us. Can you imagine that? Dear little bloke he was. I had some children from Tibet and others from Bhutan, which were closed countries. And they were sent out. The Tibetans were refugees that had come out when the Chinese marched in to Tibet. And the Bhutanese people just lived in their own little kingdom themselves. But they sent the children to the school for education. But the majority came from the tea gardens or from Calcutta.
Can you tell us a little bit about one little Bhutanese girl?
Yes, Karma. She was 6. She'd only been there. She came, she could not speak English. We all spoke English. I didn't have to learn a language. And she was there for about 6 weeks. And some of her family came to visit her. And would you believe this 6-year-old who'd been there for 6 weeks was translating to them what we were saying? I thought that was amazing. A very cute little girl she was.
So what did the children do after school?
Oh, we played and we did normal things like other children.
So they didn't do any chores at home?
Oh, everybody had a chore. Not in my house because they were too small, but the others, every child in a cottage had a job to do. You could eat your lunch off that floor. It was so polished. Everything was perfect. The clothes, the cottages were just lovely. It was great.
And did they have a school uniform?
No, I don't think so. No. Oh, that. When I first went there, the children didn't wear shoes and socks. However, I was given a grand job of giving every child in the homes shoes and socks. I tell you, that was a bit of a headache, making sure that every child had shoes and socks to wear. But they were barter shoes. They're wonderful. You can see them anywhere in India. But it took me a few months to do that.
BATA, barter shoes. Yeah.
Barter.
Yeah.
Mm.
You mentioned Darjeeling before. So you said it wasn't very far away, but how long did it take to get there?
Oh, about 2 hours, 2.5 hours.
Okay. So what was special about Darjeeling for you?
Well, yes, they had lovely coffee shops over there. We'd sometimes go over if we had a day off and the jeep was going over, we'd go over too. And also the shopping was a little bit better there. But it was a special place, and as I said, I saw Mount Everest when I was there. Yep.
And then along came a man called Jeffrey.
Yeah, a special one. Mm.
Yeah. Would you like to tell us about that situation?
Well, I was there for 2 terms. I arrived in 1961, and I was there until the end of 69. I went home once, but I began to feel at the end of my 2nd term that perhaps God had something else for me to do. And I began to pray, was I supposed to come back here again when I went home? And then, because the Chinese were on the border, the army had moved in, not on our hill, but on the other hill across the way. And often some of the army people would come to church if they were Christians, or sometimes they would, if they had a special occasion, we would be invited over. Staff would be invited over to their camp. And one day we were invited to a special occasion, and some of us went for dinner. And I met a man. And he was a lieutenant colonel. He was down from the border with the Chinese. He looked across 150 meters over there with the Chinese, and he was here with his men. He was a paratrooper, commander of 6th Para, and he'd come for a conference. And we got chatting, and we were quite friendly. He told me he was a widower. His wife had recently died, and he had 3 small children who lived with their grandmother in Secunderabad, which is down south in Hyderabad, next to Hyderabad. And we got on quite nicely. And then he went back up the mountain to his place. But another day I was walking along the road, and along came a jeep. And I was with my friend, and I said, "That's that officer we met." Wow. And he came to visit me. He'd come down off the mountain because he was at 14,000 feet. I was only at 5. He came down to visit me. And I thought to myself, I wonder if this is what I've been praying about. Not that I was looking for a husband, I wasn't. It was a surprise. Perhaps this is the next thing God has for me. And it was. And eventually, eventually I got an engagement ring, which was rather special. And actually, 2 of those children are sitting right here now. I had 2 daughters when I got married and 1 son. 2 daughters are right here with me.
Yeah. So overall, all those years in and outside of India, what could you say about the place that God had in your life and how you were aware of his presence and provision? You've just shared about one thing, but just maybe highlight generally.
I've always felt that God was with me. From the very first time I felt this word come to me that God said to me, you could do this for me. And I never doubted any of that. In all my mishaps and what have you, God was always there. When I had a need, God met my need. And I always believe that if God asks you to do something, he'll give you the ability to do it. And that's what I pray, that I would be faithful to him. And I love him dearly.
Thanks, Daphne. God is a great God, isn't he? Yeah. I just want to read Psalm 22, verses 30 and 31. Our children will also serve him. Future generations will hear about the wonders of the Lord. His righteous acts will be told to those not yet born. They will hear about everything he has done. What a promise. And we want that for the next 100 years, don't we? Shall we pray? Father, I want to thank you for what we've heard this morning. Thank you for what you have done during Daphne's journey with you. There's leading, guiding, using, enabling, growing, and blessing. Help us to live faithfully and prayerfully today, true to you and true to those who have gone before us. May I remain firmly anchored in the certainty of your unchanging nature and your unchanging word. Thank you that you are the I am, the same yesterday and today and forever. May we be willing to share your good news to this and to future generations wherever you might call us, even if it's not comfortable. Lord, I surrender my life to you afresh in this very moment. We've heard of Daphne's strong conviction to go to India. Help me, help each of us to explore with you. Do we have that same strength of conviction that where we are today and where we might be going tomorrow is exactly what you're asking of us? May we hear your call and be obedient to it. We ask this in your name. Amen. Thank you, Daphne.